This edition is all about hoops. You are not going to want to take your eyes off this one, as there's nothing foul about this show. So celebrate basketball with us, as we have a very special guest tonight who will help me get ready and all of you celebrate what was a very memorable season. Sports Night is next.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sports Night. I'm Joe Young.
And I'm Howie Shapiro, and it's all about hoops. It's all about hoops tonight.
Yeah, they were the last ones left standing at Coon Rapids, and they stood until the championship of the section, but could not make it into this week's state tournament. So the quest will have to go on next year.
I mean, you cap the season, and it really was a nice season. Obviously, the goal didn't get to where they wanted to at the end, but, a game away from going to state, that's pretty good. You just need to take the next step to get over the hump.
Yeah. Little more motivation for next year.
Yes.
Well, the boys basketball team did continue its quest in the section tournament last week, hosting Forest Lake for the semifinals on Tuesday. 6-seeded Rangers upset Centennial in the first round, and now they had their sights set on the Cardinals. Coon Rapids playing on their home floor for the final time, and they had to dig deep to make sure they could celebrate a win and get to the section championship for the second year in a row. Forest Lake comes out on fire. Sophomore big man Owen Waldock banging away down low, gets the rebound, the bucket, the foul. Rangers jump to an early 12-2 lead. Cardinals don't panic. They go to work. Elijah Smith hitting a three from the left wing, part of a 16-3 run that helped the Cardinals take the lead midway through the first. Cards up one. Peyton Himley at the top of the key, left alone, so he drops a bomb. That put Coon Rapids up 21-17. Final seconds of the half, Ellingson bump but no call. Nick Bartlett races to the other end and lays it in. That gives the Rangers a 25-24 lead going to the locker room. Cardinals frustrated by foul trouble and some non-calls. They'd have to reset during the break. The Rangers hit a couple big three-pointers early in the second, trying to stretch the lead. Reed Olson's bucket from the quarter made it 36-32. Then the Cardinals turned the momentum by turning over the Rangers. Great steal by Peyton Himley, gets Smith on the run. He takes it strong to the rim, gets a bucket and the foul, gets Coon Rapids back in front. Smith really put the team on his back in the second half and willed them to the win. He gets the steal, another basket. He had a team-high 22 points and 14 rebounds. He didn't have to do it all alone. Himley with a big game off the bench. Sweet roll to the rim right there. He had 9 points. And freshman Marcus Bailey only had one basket in the game, but it was a big one. His three-pointer pushed the lead to 46-39 with just over 3.5 minutes left. But this one goes to the wire. Final minute, Bartlett weaving through traffic, able to make it a one-point game once again. Cardinals able to do just enough at the free throw line, 4 of 6 in the final 20 seconds. Still, it's a 2-point game, and Bartlett has a chance to tie, goes coast to coast again, but he hits the bottom of the rim just before the buzzer, and the Cardinals survive 54-52. Always sweet, especially for the seniors, to go out with a win in the final time on the home court. And it was going to be the last time, win or lose, because the final at a neutral site.
Yeah, the Cards had to sweat that one out. I think coming in, they knew that this is an opportunity. I think maybe not, I'm not going to say coast, because certainly nobody does that in this league, but to maybe have that game in hand a little bit. But give credit to Forest Lake. They gave the Cardinals all they wanted, but the Cardinals, through tenacious defense, and you saw those turnovers that led to points, that really helped them get that win.
Well, who you didn't see a lot of in that highlight was Cummings Coleman.
Yes.
Because of foul trouble from the very early start, didn't score until the last minute and a half. Had all 5 of his points in the last couple of minutes. Just had one basket, 3 of his 5 points coming from the free throw line.
Yeah, but he had some big points at the end of the game that really helped them get over the hump. Those were huge. Well, the Cardinals were back in the title game, hoping they could live up to their team motto of one more step. In order to do that, they would have to defeat their nemesis from Andover. The Huskies won both regular season meetings, and they were hungry for more. The Cardinals would need their best game of the year if they hoped to get to state for the first time in nearly 40 years. Andover starts ice cold from the outside, and that helps the Cardinals start with a lead, with Coleman's looking for a strong bounce back after the foul trouble that he had in the semis. He takes this one straight to the paint, and he scores off the glass, ready to flex, and flex against the Huskies. Another miss by Andover, C-squared racing coast to coast, just the start of a very big night for that young man. But the Cards could never pull away. Under 5 minutes in the first, great give and go from Ellingson to Smith, and he's not going to miss from there, but that was the only bucket as he was held to 3 points in the game. Cummings-Coleman is getting ready to pick up the slack. Coming up here, he picks off the pass, takes it the distance again, bucket, and the foul. Beautiful body control as we take another look at that. See squared, had a game high 25 points. Nice, just beautiful move, able to take the bump and get the bucket. But the Huskies close the half strong and erase the lead. Landon Nelson's 3 from the right side made it a 1-point game. Their shooting struggles straightened out late in the first. Nelson's going to hit another 3, this time from the left. He had 13 of his 19 in the first half. We're going to move to the final second. Sam Angel able to get the follow-up to go in just before the buzzer. An 11-0 run gives the Huskies a 28-21 lead going into the break. We're going to move to the second half. Cardinals need to start a strong comeback. Ellingson gets them a spark. He hits a 3 with a hand in the face. He had 14 points, 8 boards, and 4 blocks. But once the Huskies started to hit from the outside, they pull away. Connor Foy hits from the corner to push the Andover lead to 15. Still a lot of time at this point. The Cardinals do get a quick answer for that one. Kaijon hitting from way beyond the arc, keeping a little hope alive. But the Huskies just have way too much speed and way too many weapons. Sam Masungo driving, getting the basket and the foul. He had 19 on the night. The Huskies push the lead to over 30. Cummings-Coleman hits another long 3 at the buzzer, but it's meaningless as the Huskies win 71-50. The Cardinals winning the section title for the 3rd time in 10 seasons. They represent Section 7 at the state. They play Tuesday morning against Northwest suburban rival and top-seeded Park Center. And that's a chore for anybody when they face the number 1 seed.
Yeah, that's a tough draw.
That is a tough draw.
And it seems that Andover, in their 3 trips to state, they've had real tough draws each and every time. But that was, of all the teams in the state tournament, that's probably the last team they wanted to see, not only because they are the number 1 seed, but because they're a conference opponent, they're more familiar with what the Huskies are going to bring. But they're a tough squad, and the Cardinals just haven't been able to find the answer to them. Great season, though. Doesn't take anything away. We saw as they went through the bracket, the Cardinals first 2 games way closer than they wanted both of them to be. But they got to where they were expected to be, and the rankings played out right as the number 1 team wins over the number 2 in the championship. But a great season for this team. They finished with 19 wins. A lot of fun to watch, and they do have some big pieces that are coming back.
They do. Obviously, they've got to fill some holes because they're losing some key quality players, quite obviously. But they do have some really fun talent coming back, and I'm excited to obviously continue to watch Kaijon, but also continue to watch Marcus Bailey continue to develop the youngsters. Has some really nice potential.
We're going to talk a lot more about this season and what is still to come for the Cardinals program. We're going to sit down with Coach Mike Gregorek in just a moment. We'll take a short break, and Sportsnight continues after this. Welcome back to Sports Night. We're on the side set now. We're joined by boys basketball head coach Mike Gregorek. Thanks for being with us. And first of all, obviously it's only been a couple of days. What's the digestion process been so far?
It's it's been a process for sure. I think by the end of the weekend I'm at a place of peace in a way, and then now we go back to school today, and there's no students yet, but there's staff, so everyone is bringing up the game, and all of a sudden, you go back into that dark sadness. Overall, it is sad. Any time a season ends, it's sad. Like every season's its own unique journey. The journey with some of these kids that we, the seniors in particular, it's always sad that when it's over. There's also the sadness of being so dang close, to getting back-to-back section titles and just falling short. Burns, but conversely, it's exciting too as you look forward to next year.
Well, talk about the journey. So you think about where you were when you started this season until now, for example.
Sure.
Talk about how you felt in the beginning on your squad and as you watched your team grow and exceed and get wins. Talk a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we came out of last year, probably a surprising section finals participant. We pulled off a nice upset and we returned a lot of guys. It was the total opposite of last season where we really only had 2 guys with minutes and we had a lot of juniors that were going to have to fill in. So we came into this year with a lot of expectations on our end. Even from when we lost to Duluth the year before, sort of our motto of, well, you see that celebration, you hear that. That's got to be us. And what is the work that we're going to do to put in? So we came in with very much a goal of not only getting back to a section title, but, trying to finish the deal. But as with any season, it's got a lot of ups and downs, right? And this one was no exception to that. And you just, figuring out new things and new roles and new positions. We had 2 very good leaders last year, Jordan Dorner and Monty Henry, that not only were great leaders on the floor, but in the locker room too. And, big challenge for us this year was who was going to fill the void of that off the court. And who was going to fill the void on the court? Because those guys were just playmakers. Like the offense ran better with them. And so as you looked at the season, it's figuring out who are those guys. And throughout the year, it was, a lot of different experiments here or there. Guys really emerged. We knew like a Kai-John Cummings-Coleman, right? He had upside for sure. I don't think even back then we realized he would be an all-conference player, but now that you get to know him and you see him every day and you see his work ethic and the God-given athleticism, it's no surprise. So it's probably not a direct answer on how our year went, but just a lot of ups and downs. Obviously we lost some players along the way that presented challenges and new opportunities. But when it's all said and done, I know we fell short, but I'm very proud of this team and how far we came this year.
Well, and you talked about the previous leaders in our Monty Henry and Jordan Doe. This year's team had a great senior class. And we got to see guys like Elijah Smith and Matthew Ellingson out on the floor every night. But other seniors played other roles that maybe weren't as visible. Talk about guys like Peyton Himley and what that kind of player means to a team.
Oh, Peyton Himley, I can't say enough great things about him. I joke with his family that I'd adopt him if they gave him up. I think he's probably 18 now, but he's just he truly is, I said this after a game, truly is another coach on the floor. One of the smartest kids on and off the court that I've ever had. Here's a boring example. I won't go too much depth, but last year we were installing something in the playoffs, and the way we actually lived it was sort of opposite in terms of positionally how we designed it. I know that's boring, but anyhow, no one would realize this. Just the way our Monty was actually playing the part. It's like, you know what? We're just gonna let it go because this still works. And Peyton's like, Coach, we're actually doing this. I'm like, Peyton, you're the only one. My own assistant coaches don't even know that, And that's Peyton Himley in a nutshell. Just a really smart kid, but just a great leader. A great young man, always represents our program well. I mean, he's involved in DECA. He was a National Merit commended student. So you name like everything that you'd want out of a kid in your program, like he was it. He was a gym rat. He was a kid that would pick up younger kids. He was a kid also, early in the year he started. And we got to the point where it was clear, like, Kai-John he's a stud, right? And we're gonna move him into the starting rotation. And Peyton accepted that. Like, there was no bad blood, there was no animosity, there was embrace. When we had a tough stretch in our season, we had a stretch where we had to some players no longer were going to be with us. He really stepped up big time there, and to just as a conduit really of the players and coaches of like, hey coach, like we get this and we're locked in. We understand why, and I promise you we're ready. We're locked in. We're ready to go hard and keep pushing. And that's him in a nutshell. He was playing some of his best ball at the end, and I couldn't be prouder of him. I think of other seniors too. Let's talk about him. Keith Dang, right? He was a nice kid, broke his leg before his junior year. Kid loves ball, right? So you couldn't play in any kind of gym in Minnesota, COVID. Well, my man goes to Wisconsin to go play at a gym. Unfortunately, he breaks his leg. So he couldn't be part of, last year he, couldn't play. And just coming in this year and just sort of figuring out his role too. Like, what he did in spring AAU was somewhat different than what was expected here, and just learning how to do that. And yeah, there were ups and downs at times, but just really proud of the year he had. Matt Ellingson, obviously just the way he emerged defensively. I mean, my gosh. I mean, I think about
how do you even, those block numbers are off the
it's
charts.
unbelievable.
Crazy.
And he's not a 6'7" guy.
No, he's just a fly swatter. We sort of knew that when he was young too. I remember there'd be he's a sophomore, there'd be some one-on-one drills and he would just be a pass, blocking Jackson Aurelius, He was there when a guy he looked up to a lot was Marshall Holland.
Okay.
In our program. And actually, I don't know, I think that's a big reason he actually wore number 11 after Marshall, too. And, he would, as a young buck, give Marshall some fits, we're going to really miss his defensive side and just what a leader he became as the year went on. He's a kid that's, he's an emotional kid. And sometimes emotion can get the best of him at times. And by the end of the year, he really became a rock for us. I mean, that kid, he didn't really come out of games. He I got a cramp. I think that was the only time he came out in the last 6 games, And then Alex Beck, just what a great kid he is. Great young man and just a star of his role. Moved the ball, fought for every rebound, and just a goofball of a personality. Nothing was ever too serious for him. I joked in the locker room afterwards. I'm waiting to go into the locker room, and I walk in. I think he's playing flippy bottle. Right? So we all said, it's just Alex being Alex. And I said, Alex, man, I love your personality type. Nothing's ever too serious for you, and you always know how to, just be calm and move on. I'm like, you are going to live to 98 years old as a very happy old man. I got maybe 10 more years. So, but I'm going to miss those guys. I mean, they just, all of them really special.
It's a lot of length, too.
Yeah.
You're losing a lot of length.
I'm well aware. Yeah. The 1-3-1 zone looks pretty dang good when you're 6'6", 6'6", 6'7". So, I'm excited for the competition. I'm excited for some of the options that we have to fill in minutes.
You're the guy at the top, but talk about your relationship with your coaches, because I know how important that is to have a good coaching staff and you guys bounce ideas off each other. And I one of the things I love to do is kind of watch you guys on the bench, especially in timeouts and talking about how you react with each other. Talk a little bit about that relationship you have with your coaches.
Do I have to actually say anything nice about Matthew Schumann?
I would prefer you not
TV?
to. I prefer you not to. We're looking for the truth.
One of the best pieces of advice I got actually when I first became a head coach was from Coach Arsdorf, who used to be the coach of Blaine and my old boss. And, he told me one time, he goes, it's so important to have people that you like, that you coach with, that you could get along with. Not necessarily yes men. You don't need a bunch of yes men, but you need people that you like, and you could go through the journeys, because there's a lot of ups and downs, and not every season is going to be 19 wins. We know, right? We've had plenty that were at 19 wins. Matt Schumann Coach Schumann is my right-hand man. He's been with me since literally day one. When I got this job, when I first got the job here at Coon Rapids, 2 of the first people I reached out to were Dave Frazier, former Centennial coach, left here and went to become a head coach there, and Matt Schumann. And he's really in the journey become one of my best friends too. I think part of that is because the honesty, we could basketball wise talk honestly. I may have an idea and he's like, dude, you're an idiot. That sucks, and conversely, I'll do the same for him. But we've really over the years have really come to really understand what our strengths are. I always talk whole part whole, right? I'm sort of the whole guy. I sort of see how the 5-on-5 works. And the implementation and the building of things, I see it in the whole compartment and the importance of practicing it in the whole. Schumann is so good at the parts, understanding actually what if we took this 2-on-2 aspect, our skill development stuff too. Is actually we need this specific skill for this, and it's just those two worlds meshing has been very good, I think, for the development of our program. I think we have I think we've developed kids pretty dang good here. We've had some teams we go against some teams that maybe have a lot of God-given or maybe have years of youth basketball experience compared to some of our guys. I think of my seniors. My seniors grew up in travel ball. They lost to Anoka all the time. They didn't even play Blaine's top team most of the time. And now when we get up to this level, we've actually we've been able to compete and win against some of these rivals. So our ability to develop players is big, but I can't do it without Coach Schumann. And so he is great because he challenges my thoughts. He's good even in game 2 of just like, hey, let's try something different. Throw them off your scent. Throw them off your scent. They're too comfortable right now. Yep. You know it. We got to try something. And when it works, I give him a high five. And when it's not, he apologizes. Coach Carver's been great to have this year, too, when you think about, a former player and him being able to at times, too, because, there's a stretch of the year the guys are like, man, Coach, you're working us too hard, man. And Coach Carver's like, boys, back in my day, he can do that now.
Yeah, he's the old man now.
But he's the good guy on staff for sure, and it's been really fun to, develop him in his role as coach, and not only the X's and O's things, the in-game things, but some of those behind-the-scenes things. Every season there's going to be some really tough decisions that a head coach has to make. But I think part of my job as head coach is to let my assistants be privy to some of those, so they themselves could think about, well, how would I handle this? What if I'm in this seat someday? I know me as an assistant, I aspire to be a head coach someday. So I was very appreciative of the coaches who let me in some of those meetings, or or just even, man, I like the way Coach Arsdorf does this at Blaine, for example. But if I did it, this is what, and I like to allow my coaches that insight as well.
So talking about the coaching staff you have, and you've had Schumann with you since day one. Obviously, some parts have moved on. We saw Coach Jefferson over at Anoka in the first round of the playoffs. But look at where this program was when you began and where it is now. What would you say makes you most proud, and how was it achieved?
Yeah, gosh, that is something I think about, and I actually thought about it. When we lost, unfortunately, Thursday, I was definitely in the moment. And actually, Schumann, this is good. Again, the balance, right? Schumann actually got macro on me for it. It was the opposite. And he's like, oh, look at where we are, man. I know this sucks, but this is back-to-back section finals, man. And, okay, so how do we, the thing I'm most proud of is I'm proud of the young men who've come through it. I'm proud of the young men who committed to our process. When I took this over, it was my vision of what I wanted to do. A couple things is I wanted to get the youth excited to play for us. I wanted them to see us in the gym. I wanted us to be in the gym in the summer, to see Coach O, to see the players come to their practices. Man, I want to be a Cardinal someday. I want to play for him someday. I think we've done that. I mean, I look at this class now, our senior class, those kids that did travel ball, I'm the only coach they've known. I mean, I've been here which is crazy. I mean, next year will be year 10, which just blows my mind, That's if Walrath brings me back. We'll find out,
I think you're safe.
I hope so. We've made those connections. And the journey of watching these young men develop has been great. I think that's the thing I'm most proud of. But also what the cool thing about our town is some towns that we play, they could look at, let's say, their 6th grade class right now in travel ball. They may have 3 teams, right? And they could say, out of this pool of 30, this will be my varsity someday. At Coon Rapids, that's not the case with us. We're going to have some kids that show up, I say, out of the woodwork. We're going to have some kids that maybe move into town. We're going to have some kids that, for whatever reason, they can't do travel ball, for whatever reason it is. And so we get some kids that we don't know, and how they fit in to the mix. And that's something that I love about our team, every year is, and I say this every year to the group, is just how different and diverse we are, racially, religiously, our background, our playing experience, our family dynamic. And I love how we come together every year for a comic goal. And I know that's really cheesy, but that's what it's about. To be in these playoff games, the Anoka and Forest Lake game, I was talking to Mr. Walrath actually afterwards and said it's sort of like a celebration of Coon Rapids basketball, because it's so many of our alumni came back, and to see a Zach Hussein, to see a Lucky Morange, to see a Tyler Brick, a Domovic, I know I'm missing names, a Jeremy Becker, etc., but to see those guys there is really special. So that's what I'm most proud of, is watching these young men grow. How we got there was just believing in our process and it was just being unrelenting in our process. We're going to hold these guys to a high standard. We're going to use basketball to develop young men. And I want our guys to understand personal responsibility and being proactive in life. And if we're not using sports to develop young men, then what are we doing? And so I'm proud that we have stuck to that, even though that has maybe made it has led to some tough decisions. But the kids who get through our program, I know that they've learned those lessons, and I feel like they have the tools to apply those far beyond the more important things than basketball.
I know you're not done celebrating season 9 yet, but talk a little bit about just your thoughts on season 10 and going into next year and losing the seniors that you're going to lose, but having some pretty good young players coming up as well.
Sure. Well, it's funny you mentioned this, right? So we're in the middle of the season, and I think it's with experience. I'm like, man, I'm excited for the playoff run, but I'm also ready to to take a break, right? Because you just go hard. I'm not gonna lie, guys. This weekend, I already started my whole formulation of next year stuff. So I give me 2 weeks to I don't know, be a great husband and dad, and then I'm ready to go get at it again. So no, I'm excited for next year. We have, our sophomore class is as much God-given as we've had in my time. It's a very talented group of young men, and it's deep. And so with that is the natural competition. I think that's one of the things when I look at teams in our league, like a Maple Grove, like an Andover, right? They have Andover every level coming up. There are 3, 4, 5 teams. And so they're always competing with each other constantly to rise. Well, when you only have one team travel coming up, or, when it's not as deep, there's that challenge of, do you want to be Coon Rapids good enough? Or do you want to be Northwest Suburban good enough? And sometimes that's a message that sort of gets, it's almost like a 2x4 to the head, when you lose to an Armstrong, oh yeah. So I think those guys understand that competition. Like our B squad, for example, that's our sophomore team. That was as good as any B squad we've had, in our time. So I'm really excited for the competition that we're going to have for minutes. We got guys coming back. Obviously, you could see a Kai John Cummings Coleman. He's all conference as a sophomore. That's the youngest all conference player I've had in my time here. But he's going to be obviously a huge piece going forward, and he's already excited for next year. And he's, we're texting back and forth, about the vision. And but I think of a Jackson Hetwer who got huge experience this year, and who could only grow from that. And I think of some other guys, even we got a couple juniors that'll be seniors in the hunt for minutes, like Griffin Tom that you guys know through football, and had a really good JV season, and Elijah Tabla who's in the hunt. He's just a defensive animal, that's gonna play, and these guys. And so I'm excited for the Connor Jordans, for the Kenny Jones, for the Japri Palmers. I'm excited for who's gonna rise here, because I don't know who is, and that's exciting as a coach to know. I don't know who my starting lineup is right now, and I can't wait to see, who rises top, who's going to put the work in, and yeah.
Well, you didn't touch on Marcus Bailey too.
True.
Yeah, and yeah. I think the talent that he has as a freshman, and you saw it there, and so that's
for sure.
That's got to be exciting as well.
For a kid on this team with the kind of team that we had a very nice team this year. There's no doubt. This is as deep as a team as I had. I remember even telling you before the year that this is probably the most talented piece for piece team that we had. For Marcus Bailey to be able to crack the rotation says a lot about his upside. Very coachable young man, very athletic as can be. He can anticipate some things. He's obviously he's courageous to shoot a 3 in a tight playoff game. That takes some boldness. We also had another freshman up on the JV, Jackson Young, who is you talk about a gym rat. Yep. I think the kid lives at the school. I'm hoping that he I don't know if he's getting free lunches. I don't know what's going on, but the kid lives in the gym, and he's got a chance to be a very dynamic shooter for us, and maybe as soon as next year. So again, you talk about competition. I think of a name you guys don't even know yet from our B squad, Jerry Freeman. He's a kid on the sophomore team. We called up for scout team. He actually was he played Sam for scout team, Masungu from Andover, and all of a sudden this kid's getting in there in the paint, boom, boom, making plays. Unfortunately, it didn't help us in that game, but you see the upside that kid has. So yeah, I'm excited, guys.
Great.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
Well, that seems like I think you deserve a little longer break than that. It's been a lot of fun to watch this team. It's a lot of fun to see this team progress over the last 10 years, and we look forward to seeing it take another step next year.
Well, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate CTN. We're very lucky in this town. Like, I say that to our kids, you know, our team's like, how lucky that they have this experience here. Like, I mean, not only do we get our games televised, but you guys like love Coon Rapids sports. I mean, you guys, you know, absolutely, you guys absolutely, you know, live it, you love it, and that our young men get to have their games on. I mean, they could go years after and still throw it up on YouTube. Can you either confirm nor deny that Coach Carver shows every geometry class he has a shot? You know, I'm not going to say he does.
I'm sure he does.
But thank you guys. I appreciate you know our work with you, and obviously Howie, our 45-minute chats every pregame.
I miss him when the season's over. So
let's talk about some baseball.
We will. Oh, we will. Believe me.
Well, we appreciate you coming on with us as well tonight, and I think that's going to be enough of this edition. I want to thank Mike Ogorek for joining us. I want to thank all of you out there for joining us, continuing to support everything we do here at CTN for the entire crew, including Neil Highlights, Hennen behind the scenes, and Howie Shapiro. I'm Joe Young saying good night.